January 12, 2026. The desert night over the western Persian Gulf is unusually quiet. Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes of the United States Air Force stares through the reinforced glass of the operations center. Aboard USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, the aircraft carrier cuts through black water somewhere south of Strait of Hormuz, its deck lights glowing like a small floating city in the dark. Inside the Combat Information Center, the air smells faintly of electronics and stale coffee. Banks of screens show radar sweeps, satellite feeds, and encrypted intelligence reports. For the past 6 hours, the room has been tense but quiet. Everyone knows something is building. No one knows exactly when it will break. Reyes adjusts his headset. Any updates from Central Command? He asks quietly. The young intelligence officer beside him shakes her head. Nothing official, she whispers, but satellite traffic over western Iran just spiked. Reyes exhales slowly. He has been in the military 15 years. Afghanistan, Syria, a dozen operations that never made the news. But tonight feels different. Tonight feels like the edge of something bigger. Across the carrier deck above them, F-18 Super Hornets sit in neat rows, their wings folded like resting predators. Ground crews move silently between them, checking fuel lines and missile mounts under dim red lights. No one is joking. No one is relaxed. 2 hours earlier, an Iranian radar installation near the coast reportedly locked onto a U.S. surveillance drone. The drone vanished from radar minutes later, shot down. Official confirmation hasn't come yet, but everyone in the room already knows. Reyes studies the tactical map glowing on the screen. Red icons blink along Iran's southern coastline. Missile batteries, air defense radars, fast attack boats, and just beyond them, the narrow choke point of the Strait of Hormuz, where nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply moves every day. If a war starts here, the entire planet will feel it. Suddenly the door behind them opens. A Navy commander steps into the room, face pale but controlled. "Attention," he says. Every conversation stops. The commander looks around the room, meeting their eyes one by one. The president has authorized defensive strike operations. The words hang in the air like a shockwave. Reyes feels his stomach tighten. Somewhere above them, engines begin to roar to life. The commander continues. Multiple Iranian missile sites have been identified, preparing launch sequences. If they fire first, we lose ships, maybe thousands of lives. He pauses. Our orders are simple. Reyes grips the edge of the console. We strike first. For a moment, no one moves. Then the alarms begin to sound. Above the carrier, the first jet is already accelerating toward the dark horizon. And somewhere on the Iranian coast, radars are turning toward the sky. The alarm echoes through the steel corridors of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, like a heartbeat suddenly gone wild. Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes moves fast now. Inside the Combat Information Center, the quiet tension of the night has shattered. Voices overlap. Screens fill with moving symbols. Radar sweeps pulse across glowing displays. Flight package Alpha launching now, someone calls out. Reyes turns toward the tactical display. One by one, green icons begin lifting off the carrier. Deck American fighter jets climbing into the darkness above the Persian Gulf. F-18 Super Hornets, each loaded with precision-guided bombs and anti-radar missiles. Their mission is brutally simple. Blind Iran's coastal defenses before those defenses can fire. Reyes watches the aircraft icons streak north toward the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. "Time to target," he asks. The radar operator answers without looking up. 17 minutes. 17 minutes until the first bombs fall. 17 minutes until the world changes. Reyes leans closer to the screen. Satellite feeds are updating every few seconds now. The coastline of Iran appears in cold infrared tones: Black Sea, pale desert, clusters of military installations glowing faintly with heat. One location flashes. An Iranian radar complex near Bundarijsk. The intelligence briefings earlier had been clear. If war begins, that radar will guide the first wave of anti-ship missiles toward the carrier group. Take it out first, silence it, or the fleet dies. Enemy radar activation, the intelligence officer suddenly says. Every head turns. A red warning symbol appears on the display. Then another, and another. Along the Iranian coastline, multiple radar systems begin lighting up at once. They know. Reyes feels the tension ripple through the room. They're tracking the strike package, the radar operator mutters. Somewhere over the Gulf, American jets are flying low across black water at nearly the speed of sound. Their pilots can probably already see the faint glow of Iran's coastline on the horizon. The commander steps beside Reyes. "Status: enemy radars active," Reyes replies. "Multiple sites." The commander nods slowly. No turning back now. Above them, the thunder of jet engines fades as the strike fighters disappear into the night sky. In the Combat Information Center, the countdown continues. 10 minutes. 9. 8. Reyes stares at the blinking radar screen. The world outside the carrier is silent and dark. But on the Iranian coast, missile crews are rushing to their launchers. Radar dishes are spinning faster, and somewhere inside a hardened bunker overlooking the Gulf, an Iranian officer is about to make a decision that could ignite a war across the entire Middle East. The fighters cross the dark water in total radio silence. High above the black surface of the Persian Gulf, Lieutenant Marcus Hale grips the control stick of his F-18. The cockpit glows dim green from the instrument panel. Outside the canopy, the horizon is barely visible, a thin gray line where sea meets sky. Below him, the Gulf looks endless. Behind him, 12 American aircraft slice through the night in tight formation, engines pushing them toward the Iranian coast at nearly 500 knots. No one speaks. Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches it all from the radar screens aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The aircraft icons move steadily toward land. 6 minutes to target. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tension has grown heavy. Every officer in the room understands the risk. If Iran launches anti-ship missiles now, the carrier group will have only seconds to react. Reyes adjusts his headset. Strike package entering Iranian radar envelope, he reports. Across the room, a technician whispers quietly, "They see us." The radar display confirms it. Multiple tracking signals from the coast of Iran begin locking onto the incoming jets. Long-range surveillance radars sweep the sky. Fire control systems activate near several missile sites. Hale sees it instantly inside his cockpit. Warning lights flicker. Radar lock. He breathes slowly. This is the moment every pilot trains for but hopes never comes. Viper lead, we're painted, one of the pilots finally says over the radio. Hale answers calmly. Copy. Continue. The coastline grows clearer ahead. Pale desert cliffs, a scattering of lights from fishing villages, and somewhere beyond them hidden radar installations that control Iran's coastal missile defenses. If those radars survive, American ships in the Strait of Hormuz could be destroyed within minutes. Inside the carrier, Reyes watches the countdown timer drop. 3 minutes. Satellite imagery updates again. The target appears, a hardened radar station near the coastal hills, antenna towers rotating slowly. Scanning the sky, Reyes leans closer. "They're preparing missile launch protocols," he says. The commander beside him nods grimly. "Then Hale better move fast." Back in the cockpit, Hale lowers the aircraft slightly, dropping closer to the water. His targeting system locks onto the radar complex. A green box forms on the screen. Distance, 38 miles. Perfect range for anti-radiation missiles. He flips the weapons switch. Missile systems arm with a quiet electronic tone. Behind him, the rest of the strike package spreads out across the sky, every jet hunting the same target. But on the Iranian coast, another radar suddenly activates, and Hale's cockpit warning explodes with a new alert. Missile launch detected. The first surface-to-air missile streaks into the night sky, racing straight toward the American formation. The war has just begun. The warning tone inside Lieutenant Marcus Hale's cockpit is sharp and relentless. Missile launch. Missile launch. The words flash across his display. Outside the canopy, the dark sky over the Persian Gulf suddenly erupts with light. A surface-to-air missile climbs from the Iranian coast, its engine burning, like a white torch as it streaks upward, toward the American formation. "Break, break," Hale shouts into the radio. The formation explodes apart instantly. Jets roll and dive in different directions, each pilot fighting to become the hardest target possible. Hale slams the control stick sideways. His F-18 banks violently, nearly 90 degrees. The ocean spins in his peripheral vision while warning alarms scream. Inside the cockpit, the missile is fast. "Too fast. Countermeasures," he mutters. His thumb hits the switch. Behind the aircraft, a burst of bright magnesium flares erupts into the night sky, tiny artificial suns falling toward the water. For a moment the missile hesitates, its guidance system searching for the hotter target. Then it turns. The flare cluster explodes harmlessly in the distance. Hale exhales once, but the danger is far from over. Back inside the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches the chaos unfold across the tactical display. Red missile tracks streak toward the American aircraft. Multiple launches detected, the radar operator says. Reyes counts them quickly. 3, then 4. Iran's coastal defenses have fully awakened. The commander folds his arms tightly. They're protecting that radar site. Reyes nods. If that radar survives, Iranian anti-ship missiles could soon threaten every vessel moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and that includes the carrier itself. Back in the sky, Hale stabilizes the aircraft and pulls the nose toward the coastline again. His targeting computer reacquires the objective. The radar station near the cliffs of Iran is still broadcasting its signal, blazing like a lighthouse across the electronic battlefield. Perfect, exactly what his weapon needs. Viper lead, locking target, Hale says calmly. The rest of the strike package responds one by one. Viper 2 ready, Viper 3 ready, 12 aircraft, 12 missiles. Hale waits until the distance counter drops. 30 miles, 25. The missile warning tone still pulses softly in his headset, reminding him another launch could come at any second. He steadies the aircraft. Fox 3. The first missile drops from his wing. A second later, 11 more streak forward from the formation, their rocket motors igniting as they race toward the glowing radar source. On the Iranian coast, below them, waves crash against dark cliffs. Above them, American jets roar through the night sky. And on the ground, Iranian soldiers suddenly realize something terrifying. 12 missiles are now hunting their radar signal. The missiles arrive faster than the men on the ground expect. Inside a concrete command bunker near the cliffs overlooking the Persian Gulf, Captain Arman Farhadi of the Iranian Air Defense Forces stares at the radar display in disbelief. The signal spikes suddenly. 12 separate returns, closing fast. Too fast. What are those? A young radar operator asks. Farhadi doesn't answer immediately. His military instincts already know the truth. Anti-radiation missiles. Weapons designed for one purpose only destroy the radar that is guiding them. Shut down the radar, Farhadi shouts. The operator hesitates for half a second. It is already too late. Outside the bunker, the tall radar dish continues to rotate above the rocky hills of southern Iran, broadcasting powerful signals into the night sky. Signals the incoming missiles are locked onto like predators following a scent. Farhadi feels the ground tremble faintly. The first missile screams over the coastline. Inside the sky above the Gulf, Lieutenant Marcus Hale watches the impact through his targeting display. 12 bright streaks dive toward the radar complex. Then, white light erupts across the hillside. The first explosion throws debris hundreds of feet into the air. The radar tower bends sideways like a broken skeleton before collapsing in a storm of sparks and steel. A second missile slams into the command building. Then a third, and a fourth. The Iranian radar signal disappears from Hale's screen instantly. Target destroyed, Hale says quietly. Behind him, the other pilots confirm. Direct hit. Radar offline. Site neutralized. Back aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches the radar display update. The hostile signal near the Strait of Hormuz vanishes. For a brief moment, the entire operations room falls silent. Then someone exhales. Good hit, the commander mutters. Reyes leans back slightly, tension easing for the first time in hours. The most dangerous radar station along the Iranian coast is gone. But as the satellite feed refreshes again, his relief disappears. New red symbols begin appearing further inland. More radar systems, more missile batteries, and then another alert flashes across the screen. Iranian ballistic missile preparation detected. The room freezes. These aren't anti-aircraft weapons. These are long-range missiles capable of striking ships, bases, even cities. The commander stares at the screen. They're escalating. Reyes feels a cold weight settle in his chest. High above the Gulf, Hale's formation begins turning south toward the carrier group. Mission complete, but the war they just started is about to grow much bigger. The fires are still burning along the Iranian coastline when the next warning appears. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes leans closer to the glowing radar screen. A new symbol flashes red, then another, then 3 more. The intelligence officer beside him speaks carefully. Thermal signatures detected. Inland launch facilities. Reyes feels his pulse quicken. These aren't air defense sites anymore. They're missile bases, hundreds of miles inside Iran. Several underground silos have just opened their blast doors. Satellite imagery shows massive transporter reactor launchers rolling into position under the dim desert moon. The commander's voice cuts through the room. Confirm launch preparation. The analyst checks the feed again. Her face goes pale. Confirmed. A heavy silence settles over the operations center. Everyone understands the implication. Ballistic missiles. Weapons capable of crossing the entire Persian Gulf in minutes. Weapons that could strike the American carrier group before any defense system has time to react. Reyes grabs his headset. Alert the fleet. Above the carrier deck, The night air vibrates with activity. Sailors rush between aircraft. Missile defense systems rotate slowly, scanning the horizon. The destroyers escorting the carrier tighten their formation in the dark water. Far overhead, Lieutenant Marcus Hale guides his F-18 southward toward the fleet. Fuel is running low after the strike mission. The cockpit smells faintly of hot electronics and recycled air. Behind him, the rest of the strike package follows silently. Viper lead, one pilot says over the radio. You seeing this data link? Hale glances at the tactical display. His stomach tightens. A warning message flashes across the screen. Ballistic missile threat detected. Hale whispers to himself. Not good. Back inside the carrier, Reyes watches the countdown numbers appearing beside the missile sights on the screen. Estimated launch window, 2 minutes. 2 minutes until Iranian ballistic missiles leave the ground. 2 minutes until the war expands beyond a single radar station. The commander speaks quietly but firmly. All ships prepare missile defense. On the tactical map, American vessels scattered across the Strait of Hormuz begin activating intercept systems. Reyes stares at the screen. The satellite feed zooms closer to the desert launch sites. Tall missiles stand upright under floodlights. Engine exhaust begins pouring from the base of the first launcher. And then, the ground erupts in fire. One missile blasts upward into the night sky. Then another, and another. Reyes counts them quickly as they climb into the atmosphere. 3, 4, 5. The war that began with one strike has now become a missile race across the Middle East. From deep inside Iran, 5 ballistic missiles claw their way into the night sky, their engines roaring with a force that shakes the desert floor. The flames illuminate miles of barren landscape as the rockets climb higher and higher, leaving twisting columns of smoke behind them. Within seconds, they disappear into the darkness above the atmosphere. But they are not gone. They are only beginning their journey. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches the missile tracks appear on the tactical display. 5 red arcs stretch across the digital map. Their destination, the American fleet spread across the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Reyes grips the edge of the console. Missile trajectory confirmed, he reports. Impact estimate, 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That is all the time the fleet has to survive. The commander raises his voice. All ships engage missile defense. Across the dark waters of the Persian Gulf, American destroyers react instantly. Radar dishes spin faster. Combat systems lock onto the incoming threats. Onboard the destroyer USS Burke, sailors brace as the launch hatches of the vertical missile system slide open with a metallic thud. The ship's captain gives the order. Fire. A second later, interceptor missiles explode out of the deck in rapid succession. White fire tears into the sky as they race upward to meet the incoming ballistic weapons. Back aboard the carrier, Reyes watches the defensive missiles climb on the screen. Blue icons streak upward toward the descending red arcs. The room is silent except for the quiet hum of computers. Above the Gulf, Lieutenant Marcus Hale finally sees the war with his own eyes. Far ahead of his returning aircraft, brilliant flashes of light bloom high in the atmosphere. Interceptor missiles detonating. For a moment the sky looks like distant lightning storms. Viper lead. You seeing that? One pilot whispers. Hale nods even though the others cannot see him. Yeah. His fuel warning light begins blinking. He should be thinking about landing. Instead he watches the sky, because somewhere inside those explosions are 5 missiles racing downward toward American ships. Back inside the Combat Information Center, Reyes leans closer to the screen. 2 interceptors reach their targets. 2 bright flashes. 2 red arcs vanish, but 3 remain, and they are still falling. The commander speaks quietly. Brace for impact. The sky above the Persian Gulf burns with silent explosions. High in the upper atmosphere, interceptor missiles collide with their targets in blinding flashes of light. From the deck of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, sailors stare upward as glowing fragments scatter like falling stars across the darkness. But not all of them are stopped. Inside the Combat Information Center, Staff Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches the tactical display with unblinking focus. 3 Iranian ballistic missiles were launched. 2 have already been destroyed. 1 remains. The red arc continues descending toward the fleet in the Strait of Hormuz. Final interceptor away, the radar officer says. Another defensive missile launches from the destroyer USS Burke, streaking upward in a desperate race against gravity. Reyes whispers under his breath. Come on. The room holds its breath. On the screen, the blue interceptor climbs rapidly toward the falling warhead. Distance closing, 10 miles, 8, 5. Then, a bright flash erupts across the radar display. The interceptor has struck. For half a second, the room erupts in relieved voices, but the celebration dies quickly. The system begins recalculating. Debris from the destroyed missile is still falling toward the ocean, large pieces of burning metal, tumbling through the atmosphere. Reyes studies the projected impact zone. His chest tightens. One fragment is still heading toward the fleet. Outside on the flight deck, the roar of engines echoes across the carrier as Lieutenant Marcus Hale approaches for landing. His F-18 glides low above the water, the massive ship stretching ahead like a glowing runway in the darkness. But even from the cockpit, he sees something falling from the sky, a streak of fire descending toward the ocean. Back inside the operations center, alarms suddenly flare again. The commander leans over Reyes' shoulder. Where is it going to hit? Reyes zooms in on the impact prediction. The burning debris continues falling through the night air, spinning violently as it descends toward the sea. The computer finalizes the trajectory. Reyes feels the weight of the answer before he speaks. Impact. Less than 1 mile from the carrier. Outside, sailors look upward as the glowing fragment tears through the clouds. The warhead itself is gone, but the war it started is only beginning.